Hello again, guys, and this is Chapter 2 of Slash Roleplay, the D&D 3.5 edition, and we literally just finished game. And where we started off last week, we were heading up the ladder, and we were trying to get to the roof, and we had two companions with us. We had a fighter and a wizard with us. So, this section, or this session, rather, we got to the top of the tower, and there happened to be crystals. Well, a crystal, and there were like slots for other crystals. And before anything could happen, hardly any of us actually had any like insight of what was going on. The raven of the group, the were-raven, decided that it was, oh my god, shiny object, and they went to touch it, and it just kind of like teleported us into a different location again. So we found ourselves in this corridor, which a lot of the times I'm like, oh no, it's a corridor, I must like, there's something here, there's a door, we have to check this out. No, a lot of the times it's just like, hey, we open this door. Well, we get into the next room, and it's all these mirrors. Like, mirrors upon mirrors upon mirrors. And we, like, the only way we can go is, like, straight into the room. And as you, like, walk in and you start, like, bouncing your reflections off stuff, like, your reflection stays. And it's, like, for each player. So, like, you're walking and they're all, like, tilting and turning and looking at you. Oh, dear God. It was, like, really creepy. Because then you're like, well, okay, so at one point I sheathed my weapon and, like, it was sheathed. And then all of a sudden it was, like, one of my reflections, like, unsheathed it, and I was like, what? So, we actually, end up having to fight pretty much doppelgangers of ourselves. And in the room, my character has absolutely no will save whatsoever. Like, none whatsoever. So, things that would be obvious to other people, she's like, oh, I didn't see that. So, out of every group, because there was, of course, me, there was Blitz, and there was Sherman, and so the three of us, we had reflections of ourselves. Well, for each one of our reflections, there was a actual physical one, and then there was mirror images of it. So I, of course, didn't know which one was which, and was just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to attack the closest one. And at one point, I was like, I'm going to put my weapons away and see if I don't get hurt. Because, like, I had my weapon sheathed. And I'm like, well, if I have my weapon sheathed, my reflection should have my weapon sheathed. No. No, at one point it was like, I was like, oh, are you kidding me? I don't know if you can hear Ty barking, but it's the next door neighbor's dog. Currently barking up a storm right now. But, so, we ended up actually, like, pretty doing okay. I got hit, like, what was it? I took, like, 7-8 damage, and, well, damage. So, like, my character thought I was being, like, wounded, but as soon as the combat was over, I'm like, holy shit, I'm still alive, and it was just, like, imaginary damage, because, like, in the heat of battle, you automatically assume that you're getting hurt, and I was just like, and then as soon as the combat was done, I was like, oh. Oh. Okay. So that was definitely fun, because like at one point Sherman got completely flanked by everyone, or all of his doppelgangers and stuff like that. So it was pretty funny where we were just like, we had to go against our own EC, and a lot of the times I'm like, I can't hit my own AC. This is weird. And then you know Sherman's overpowered when Sherman can't hit Sherman. Yeah. I haven't had, luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had any of my fumbles yet. I did, however, hit a nat 20 on a roll, and I did a massive 5 damage. Go me. I was like, really? Nat 20 and 5 damage? Oh, it was a waste. Pure waste. But, so we still had our 2 NPC companions with us, and we actually, like, everyone kind of took turns, like, running each one of them, which was pretty nice, because then we, like, you could figure out what you wanted to do. So for that fight, I actually took care of the fighter, and I made sure, like, I couldn't get flanked, because, well, I imagine being rogue and having doppelgangers of rogues, having flanking bonus would just be bad, so I was just like, no. Still ended up getting flanked, but I don't think they had really the advantage to it, which was good. It was good. So then, once we got done with there, we moved on to another corridor. And in that corridor was a room, like a circular room. And the voice that was coming through it was like, something that was lost to me needs to be returned. And they were talking about the wizard, that our NPC companion. And I'm like, do we have to kill him? Cause like suddenly like there was like a glowing circle in the middle of the room, and I'm like, do we have to kill him, or can we just like shove him into it? So without thinking, I was just like, guys, we're shoving him into this, and of course I have no strength whatsoever, so I was just like, I'm gonna attempt to do this, and it took literally all of us. It took the 3 characters plus the NPC to get the wizard into the circle. And, of course, I forget to, like, loot the guy. I'm like, I could steal in half his stuff. But I didn't. And then, like, they were like, well, here's a reward. So, like, our reward was, getting a sack. And, okay, so this is where it just becomes epic. So, of course, you get a scroll, you get a potion, and there was just this sack. So, of course, I'm like, I'm getting the sack, so I roll a reflex save. I'm like, I'm dive bombing this sack. So I get the sack, and I'm like, checking it out, I open it up, there's nothing in it, and I'm like, I put my hand into it, and I'm like, oh dear God, this goes on forever. So I'm like, dude, I have a bag of holding, this is a bag of holding type object. I'm like, I totally want to figure out what's gonna happen if I put the 2 together, because it's either gonna be something amazing, or something completely just amazing, either which way. Because I was like, oh, we'll just make a dimensional rift, and then, like, we can get out of here, or it's just gonna destroy everything. And half the people, like, the DM even was like, no, someone stop her. And later on, there was like, no way. I was, like, off in the corner somewhere, and I, like, dumped all the stuff out of my bag. And then I put, like, everything back in it. And I was just like, I took the 2 items. I took the bag of holding, and I took the other sack of holding thingy. It wasn't identified. And I put them together. And then I found out that apparently we were not on the regular plane. We were on the astral plane. Because I suddenly got a secret chest. And I was just like, And even the DM was like, oh, because we were just going through, like, the rules. We were like, oh, well, it's just going to open up a dimensional portal or something like this. It's going to be catastrophic. And I'm like, I'm still going to do it, even if it just completely, like, side rolls the entire campaign. I'm still going to do it because my character would totally do this. I would totally do this. And it turned into the most amazing thing ever, where it was just like, you now get this, like, 1 foot by 1 foot chest that is a type 4 bag of holding that you can send to other planes. Like, you can dismiss it and then bring it back. And I'm just like, hells yeah. It was just, like, amazing. Like, it was one of those case situations where never in 1,000 years would you ever consider yourself doing this in a campaign, and suddenly here it is, you are doing it in a campaign. Yes. It was definitely one of those moments. So, I now had this, like, chest, and we still had this other room that we had to go into. So, we obviously was like, okay, so there's a pattern. You open up the corridor, suddenly the fighter's like, no guys, I'm not going in there, not doing it, not doing this whatsoever. And I'm just like, okay. So one of the other party members is like, I'm gonna use diplomacy. Well, while he's trying to smooth talk his way into, like, getting the guy to, like, trust us to follow him away, I'm like, I have rope. And by the way, FYI, if you're going to use rope, there is a use rope skill. Because I was the type of person who simply goes, what do I roll to use this rope? But apparently, guys, there's a use rope skill. It was just one of those moments where it was just like, I know I'm not blonde, but apparently I just was just like, yes, there's a use rope skill. So I end up tying the guy up after, well, I tie him up, and while I'm tying him up, I'm stealing all of his items. So we ended up getting, like, a magical sword. And we ended up, see, it took everyone plus an NPC to drag the wizard into the other room, but it took me to drag the fighter into the circle. I'm like, what? Oh well, because there's a voice that come up to me and goes, why, thank you for delivering this guy to me, pretty much. So I was like, dude, this guy's gonna give me loot. I, like, run back out of the corridor, and I'm, like, waiting for the loot. And it ended up being armor, which I was just like, hey, at least I can sell it later. A scroll and a potion, so I'm like, not really what exactly I wanted, but stuff I can sell and get better things later. So I'm just like, meh, whatever. So now we don't have our 2 NPCs, and we completely just sacrificed them, or rather, I sacrificed them on a whim. I'm chaotic neutral. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about anyone else but me. And I want out of here, and I want my loot. Damn it. Janet. For those of you who don't know the reference, it's Rocky Horror. So we ended up, like, continuing on, and we got to, like, where we're at right now for this game. And it was another corridor, and it was a regular wooden door, and then this white crystal stone stuff door that we usually deal with. So we open the door, and it's like this really nice, like, think of the most fabulous 5-star hotel. That's pretty much what it was. And there's this weird little gray creature thingy. Oh, yeah, speaking of, there was these weird little gray creature thingies that apparently was, like, making the mirror images, and anytime, like, the solid one would die, there was just this weird gray thingy, which in my head I'm thinking E.T. Phone Home, but that's probably not right. But he was standing there, and he's like, This is a place of rest. This is a place of rest. No violence. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, like, I hide and move silently, and I, like, walk into the room, and I, like, crawl into one of the beds, and because I'm, like, again, the person who's been failing all sorts of will saves, I'm like, DM's like, you feel sleepy, and I'm like, no, I don't, and I, like, quickly jump out of bed. So I'm like, no, I'm not falling for that. My character's been, like, mentally fucked enough. I'm like, no, not falling for that. So we end up sleeping out in the corridor. And that's actually where we left off, was waiting in front of the nice white stone door. And we're currently kind of just, like, taking turns resting. Because we probably haven't actually rested since we started on this journey. And I don't know, like, how the whole time paradox thing is working, but I'm pretty sure it's probably been over a day or so. So, I'm like, yeah. I probably should have, like, gone in and slept in the bed, but when they were like, no, you feel tired, I was like, My character loves his head on, or loves her head on her own shoulders. Thank you very much. But so yeah, that's what happened in our game session. We actually cut it probably about an hour and a half shorter, or no, about an hour shorter than what I expected. I kind of estimated out for 4 hours, and we actually just quit at 9 a.m. So it gives me plenty of time to upload this video, put it on YouTube before I have to go to bed, because I do work tonight. But I hope you enjoyed this recap, and for those of you who I've been playing with, this game is amazing, guys, and I can't wait to play with you next week. So, until later, have a good one, and keep the dice rolling. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.